This is WNCT 9 on your side, News at 6.
We have to prepare for a direct hit.
And so we are not in stable territory yet. We're still kind of moving as the storm moves.
Our goal is to continue to be over-prepared, and our goal is to be underwhelmed.
That you can always rebuild, you can always repair property, you cannot restore a life if it is lost.
State and national leaders are preparing for Hurricane Matthew as it makes its way towards American soil. The common message, don't mess around with Mother Nature. Good evening, I'm Angela Green.
And I'm Ken Watling. Thanks for joining us tonight. Communities around the east are also urging residents to prepare should Matthew head back this way. From preparations, evacuations to postponements, WNCT has everything you need to know to help you get through the storm. From this.
I'm running for president.
I am officially running for president of the United States.
To this.
I humbly and gratefully accept your nomination.
For president of the United States.
After 18 grueling months, it all comes down to tonight.
So let's get out and vote.
Eastern North Carolina voters could sway the election.
We are going to win the great state of North Carolina.
Yet only one can be named the 45th president of the United States.
Former President Bill Clinton making stops in the East, some unannounced. Coming up, I'll tell you where.
And I'm Josh Birch in Greenville, where Bill Clinton's expected in about an hour. Thousands expected. A live report coming up.
And recovery efforts continue across the east. We caught up with hotel staff on how cleanup is going, and we spoke with Lenoir County leaders on how hotel vacancies affect other professions. Good evening, I'm Angela Green.
And I'm Ken Watling. Thanks for joining us tonight. The stakes are at an all-time high as Campaign 2016 hits the 2-week mark from Election Day.
We're leading, number one.
That last debate was like an early birthday present, right?
She may have the media, the money, and the special interests on her side, but we've got everyday Americans on our side.
This man is thoroughly unqualified based on his conduct, his abuse of power, and his lack of substantive knowledge.
North Carolina is one of a handful of battleground states. Both campaigns are rolling out the big guns in the east to hopes of swaying some voters. Former President Bill Clinton has made several stops throughout eastern North Carolina, including some surprise visits here in the east to meet with voters in the area. From
Nash, Wilson, and Wayne counties to Lenoir, Craven, and Pitt County later on, we have team coverage. WNCT's Kelly Byrne is live in New Bern, where Clinton just wrapped up his latest stop.
And WNCT's Josh Birch is at 5 Points Plaza in Greenville, where people are lining up for the bus tour. We'll start with Kelly, who says people got a big surprise during their daily routine. Kelly.
Well, surprise does not even describe how many people felt when former President Bill Clinton came to New Bern. Now, just a few minutes ago, he made an unannounced stop at the New Bern field office before speaking in Greenville on behalf of his wife, Democratic presidential candidate Hillary Clinton. Now, dozens of volunteers for the Clinton campaign greeted him, and several told me they were in disbelief when they saw him. Some were doing double takes, and others took selfies with the former president.
It's a great honor for our facility here, and we're just really excited to be part of this campaign, which is going to be very, very, very monumental.
Former President Bill Clinton spent time energizing the crowd like he did in Kinston. But here he also spoke briefly on issues in America and the differences between the two candidates. He told volunteers, leave no door unknocked and no voter unspoken to as the race continues. He says he won't stop campaigning until the last poll closes. And now he's on his way back to Greenville for a stop, and he'll be speaking at Uptown at 7 p.m. Our Josh Birch is there live now. Josh.
That's right, Kelly. A lot of excitement gearing up. It seems like right before we go live each time, the music starts again. So now the music started, and they've actually started letting people in here about 35, 40 minutes earlier than they had planned to. And this just started, I'd say, probably in the last 10 minutes. And obviously, one big reason is that they're trying to kind of spread things out because of the security here with the former president of the United States. Security very tight here. We were told that we should be telling people to expect long waits if they plan on coming out here. Right now you can see another wave of Hillary Clinton supporters coming in here. It seems that they're doing waves of about 100 people or so each time. Thousands are expected when the event actually kicks off here in about an hour. Now, obviously, the roads in uptown Greenville, it's not a normal traffic pattern, a lot of detours. If you are planning on coming out here tonight, you're asked to park in the 4th Street parking lot. Of course, we'll have a full wrap of what he said and some reaction from voters here coming up tonight at 10 to 11. We're live in uptown Greenville. Josh Birch, 9 on your side.
A man placed in custody 5 days after deputies find an elderly woman dead in her car. Find out the relationship between the two.
Then digging into the criminal history of the man accused of killing his estranged wife and stepdaughter.
Plus, money is headed to the east to help Hurricane Matthew survivors. What else lawmakers are discussing in the state capitol.
And later, upgrades are headed to a busy street in New Bern. Why officials say it will also help cyclists and pedestrians. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ken Watling.
And I'm Angela Green. Thanks so much for joining us. New details this evening in a story we followed for several days. The Washington County Sheriff's Office arrested Alexander Simpson in connection with the death of Mary Maggie Swain. WNCT's Kelly Burns spent the day in Roper. She has the latest from the Sheriff's Office on this disturbing case. Kelly.
The 23-year-old suspect was arrested last night and made his first court appearance in Washington County earlier this morning. Now, Simpson is charged with 1 count of murder and first-degree sex offense. The body of 69-year-old Mary Swain was found in a car on Backwoods Road in Roper on Friday. Now, the autopsy says Swain died from blunt force trauma to the head. Washington County Sheriff Johnny Barnes tells me Swain knew the suspect.
Miss Swain was a home health care worker, and she was taking care of the lady that lived in the house next door to where he lived at.
Sheriff Barnes says Simpson had no previous record. He remains at the Washington County Detention Center under a $2 million bond. Now, I spoke with family members who are in disbelief and shock that something like this could happen to someone they say was so wonderful. Coming up tonight at 6, hear more from them. Live in Washington County, Kelly Byrne, not on your side.
Kelly, thank you. Both Martin County double homicide suspects were in court this afternoon for their second appearance. And tonight we're learning more about Jeffrey Ward, the 25-year-old charged with 2 counts of murder. WNCT's Zora Stevenson has new information about Ward's past.
This case isn't Jeffrey Ward's first run-in with the law. These reports show he spent years behind bars for a handful of other crimes. On December 3rd, the 25-year-old was charged with 2 counts of murder in the deaths of his estranged wife, Dawn Ward, and her daughter, Taylor Carroll. At the time, Ward was on probation for a number of breaking and entering charges. He served over a year for those crimes and was just released from prison in March of this year. Records dating back to 2008 show various misdemeanors like traffic violations and drug use. In 2012, Ward spent 4 months behind bars for drug use and possession. We didn't find any previous criminal records with Jarrett Ward's name on it. He's charged with accessory after the fact. The funeral for both victims is this Saturday at the First Pentecostal Holiness Church. The service starts at 2. Zora Stevenson, 9 on your side.
Coming up in the next hour, Zora explains the timeline of events after deputies believe Ward killed the victims until the brothers were arrested.
The Pitt County Sheriff's Office just wrapped up a 2-month investigation putting 4 people behind bars. Deputies say these 4 men were trafficking cocaine. Deputies recovered more than 2,000 grams of the drug during the bust. WNCT was on the scene last week when investigators seized their vehicles. For a further arrest are pending.
We continue to follow our state's special session. Earlier today, the Senate approved the Disaster Recovery Act after a slight amendment. The House then unanimously approved the change. The $200 million bill helps to get aid to Hurricane Matthew and wildfire victims. WNCT's Josh Birch joined us now, and he continues to track the latest developments.
Okay, and we're really close now to getting some much-needed relief both out west and back here in the east. And all it really needs is the governor's signature to become law. And I called his press office this afternoon to see when that may take place, but they said that nothing had been scheduled yet. Now, this bill gained bipartisan support and is expected to be signed by the governor without any problems. It provides millions of dollars of relief to families, individuals, local governments, and even businesses impacted by both Hurricane Matthew and the western wildfires.
They've been through a lot, and I think us taking this step really gives them some confidence that that folks haven't forgotten that the state government is going to take care of what it needs to take care of.
The bill also addresses time missed by school districts. As proposed, local districts and charter schools would only be required to make up 2 of the days that they missed because of the storm. Of course, we will continue to follow this, as it is possible that the governor signs it either this evening or tomorrow morning. Josh Birch, 9 on your side.
Josh, thank you. And developments continue to come out of Raleigh after the General Assembly called for a surprise second session after passing the relief bill. This is video from yesterday's protest. Protests led by Democrats and the NAACP are underway as both the House and Senate reconvene. It's still unclear what this session will address, but some are concerned the Republican majority may try to stack the court or limit Governor-elect Roy Cooper's powers. Of course, stay with us for this developing story.
North Carolina's Supreme Court is dismissing the lawsuit challenging how much beach land property owners in Emerald Isle can mark off. The court issued an order today, but did not give an explanation on why it's dropping the case. Gregory and Diane Nice sued Emerald Isle over an ordinance creating a 20-feet passage on beach property they owned for public vehicles to travel. The New Jersey couple sold their $1.3 million beachfront home this fall. Washington City Council members rejected the 15th Street project Monday night. We first brought you this story last week. DOT wanted to add barriers and medians, which community members said would be a nightmare. City Council members opposed the project as well as moving the water and sewer lines. Council members want DOT to go back to the drawing board. Some City Council members suggested reducing the speed limit and adding more stoplights. Some roads in Craven County are getting a facelift in the near future. Yesterday, the state announced it will spend over $10 million on projects in New Bern.
WNCT's Allie Weatherton is live off of 1st Street in New Bern, where improvements will soon start. Allie.
Ken, many people use this street to drive, bike, or walk, but big changes are in the works. This road is 4 lanes right now. It's going to be down to 3 lanes with a turning lane in the middle and then bike lanes on both sides as well as sidewalks. It'll look a little bit like Pollock Street with bike lanes on both sides of the road and sidewalks. The goal is to make sure everyone stays safe. City Manager Mark Stevens says this project will decrease accidents and help with the flow of traffic out of the city.
And obviously, we have a lot of tourists that come to New Bern, and it's important for us to have multimodal transportation with sidewalks and bicycle paths. We're an active community. We have a lot of retirees who are very active and they like to exercise.
Stevens says this new project will allow people to safely ride their bikes on the road and feel comfortable doing so. Now, coming up tonight at 6 on 9 on your side, hear about the other 2 projects in the works and why one community member said he's a little worried about it. Live in New Bern, Allie Weatherton, 9 on your side.
In news across the country this afternoon, a Florida murder for hire case is now a mistrial. Delia DiPolito was accused of trying to hire a hitman to kill her newlywed husband. The 6-person jury said it couldn't reach a verdict after deliberating for 9 hours. She was convicted in 2011, but it was thrown out on appeal. The case gained national attention after millions saw videos of her trying to hire the hitman on the television show Cops.
One teen is dead, another is injured after police say they were buried by a snow pile in New York. The police chief says the pair were playing in a large snow mound made by public works crews. He says the boys were towards the back of the mounds when a truck dumped another pile on top. Both boys were rushed to an area hospital. Joshua Demarest was pronounced dead later that night. The other boy is recovering at home. Family, friends, and community members gathered for a moment of silence to mark the 4th anniversary of the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting. Town employees were asked to stop working between 9:30 and 9:45 to mark the exact time of the shooting. Adam Lanza fatally shot his mother, then 20 children and 6 teachers at the school in 2012. He then turned the gun on himself. Medical experts are getting their first look at the outcomes from Zika pregnancies.
How many suffer from birth defects, plus how the United States results shape up to the rest of the world. Good evening, everyone. I'm Ken Watling.
And I'm Angela Green. Thanks so much for joining us. The first set of polls along the East Coast are just an hour away from closing.
Here in our state, both gubernatorial candidates went to meet and greet voters headed to the polls today. You can see Democratic candidate Roy Cooper shaking hands with supporters before going into the Raleigh polling place. Current Governor Pat McCrory also took time to stop, take some pictures. Both candidates cast their ballots during the early voting period. We have team coverage of that race tonight. WNCT's Zora Stevenson is at Governor Pat McCrory's watch party.
We start at the Democratic watch party with WNCT's Kelly Byrne. Kelly.
Well, preparations are already underway for the Democratic Watch Party, and all eyes are on North Carolina for the presidential election. But folks here are focused more on the state election. The big one, of course, is the governor's race. Recent polls show the race between Roy Cooper and Pat McCrory is too close to call. Yet many here for tonight's watch party say they're optimistic Cooper will win.
North Carolina, we've got some really strong candidates, and I think that has allowed voters to differentiate between a number of the different elections. We've got strong candidates up and down the ballot, from Roy Cooper and Deborah Ross to Josh Stein for Attorney General and Dan Blue III for Treasurer.
President Barack Obama endorsed Cooper during campaign stops in North Carolina last week. But for now, it's the waiting game until the polls close. We'll continue to bring you live updates right here at the Democratic Watch Party all throughout election night. Live in Raleigh, Kelly Byrne, 9 on your side.
Kelly, thanks. Just across town in Raleigh, WNCT's Zora Stevenson at the Marriott Crabtree Valley, where Governor Pat McCrory is holding his watch party.
Will we have 4 more years of Governor Pat McCrory, or will a new leader take the helm? That's the million-dollar question. Republicans here say they're confident that the governor will remain in Raleigh. Doors don't open to the public here at his watch party until about 7 o'clock, but a lot of staff and elected officials have made their way into the ballroom, and they all tell me North Carolina needs 4 more years of Governor Pat McCrory. They say the work he's done needs to continue, and it's the only way North Carolina will move forward.
If we had the economy in Washington that we have in North Carolina, this would not be a contest. But they don't. Governor McCrory, not only on the economy, bringing in jobs, eliminating debt, building a rainy day fund, paying teachers.
Well, certainly in times of trouble, people need to know that their leadership cares, and I think Pat McCrory has definitely done that, and that he has been the governor that's been there for the people.
HB 2, the controversial bathroom bill, could be an issue that decides this election. Republicans here say there are things way more important to North Carolinians. We won't know the true impact of this law until the results are in, and as we know historically, that could take a while. Until then, Republicans will just have to wait anxiously. They say they're anxiously optimistic. McCrory supporters won't join him here until about 7 o'clock, and I'm sure the mood and atmosphere will liven up when they arrive. Live in Raleigh, Zora Stevenson, 9 on your side.
All right, we are also tracking the North Carolina Congressional Senate race between incumbent Richard Burr and Deborah Ross. The latest polls have the candidates in a virtual tie. This race is one of 5 congressional races which could impact which party controls the Senate. However, some political experts say we could remain gridlocked even after a new president takes office.
The Senate is very evenly divided right now, and that means that if we get a President Clinton, the Republicans have no hopes of influencing public policy unless they are at a majority or close to a majority.
Much like the governor's race, some of the hottest topics in this race is the sex offender registry and taxes.
In some places across our state, people were standing in line for more than an hour to cast their ballot. Here are the lines in Raleigh, Charlotte, and Greensboro from prime voting times like before work and during lunch. In our largest county here in the East, Pitt County Board of Elections Director Dave Davis says nearly 73,000 people have voted as of 4 o'clock this afternoon. Plenty more are expected as people get off of work and head to the polls. That's where we find WNCT's Josh Birch at the Winterville North Precinct. Josh.
Well, Ken and Angela, things have been very steady here. Not so much of a long lines here, but one of the busiest precincts across Pitt County today. Over 70% of the registered voters have already cast their ballots. Still about an hour and a half let to vote. I've been out here for a couple hours, and it's just been steady in and out of voters. I talked to some of them earlier today. They said their wait time only about 5 to 10 minutes, so pretty smooth out here, but certainly a lot of time left to come out, about an hour and a half again if you want to still vote and you have not done so. Of course, we'll have the latest all night long, but for now we're live in Winterville. Josh Birch, 9 on your side.
All right, thank you, Josh. Also in Onslow County, a good number of people turned out to vote there. Here's a look at voters making their voices heard in Jacksonville. As of 4 o'clock, the Onslow County Board of Election is reporting thousands have already casted their ballots. And for campaign volunteers, Election Day marks the end of weeks of standing outside polling locations, canvassing and calling voters. As WNCT's Elizabeth Tu reports, Election Day is just as important to them as it is for the candidates.
For these campaign volunteers, Election Day marks the end of countless hours spent outside the polls.
For me, it wasn't hard. It was, okay, where do you want me? When do you want me? And I will be there.
For nearly 2 weeks, dozens of volunteers have made the rounds in Onslow County to various voting sites. They say Election Day is a momentous day for them.
And I finally have my opportunity. I am enjoying it. I feel like I am part of the democratic process of the United States of America, even though it's my little piece in North Carolina in Onslow County. So this is what I am about.
As the clock winds down to their time spent volunteering, these men and women say there's only one thing they hope to take away from the experience.
I enjoyed it, really. I really do. There's a lot of good people that are coming out to vote. A lot of them's ready when they come here. A lot of them's not ready when they come here. And hopefully we'll have some influence on them.
Volunteers were out in full force across the county today.
Thank you, ladies, for coming out.
Making that final push to sway your vote for their candidate.
But no, I don't think I'll miss it. Tomorrow, I will look forward to not seeing any more commercials on TV, hopefully for a long time.
In Onslow County, Elizabeth Hugh, 9 on your side.
Thank you. Now, volunteers have only a short time left to work the polls. Some of them say they're headed to watch parties. Others are heading home to watch the results after a long day's work.
While most voting went off without a hitch, there were a couple of glitches. A voting location in Lenoir County worked without lights this morning. Around 8:30, the power went out at Hugo Free Will Baptist Church near Grifton. Power was restored about an hour after that. Chief Judge Mary Lou Johnson says she was stressed.
One was, 3 of them went down. Supposedly they were supposed to have batteries, I think, for an hour and a half. But 3 of them went down, the battery did not work. So the one with the battery, we used one machine to cover about 25 people.
Johnson says many people who came to vote while the power was off left and then came back later in the day.
Make WNCT your choice for all of your election coverage. We'll have reports throughout the night updating you on local, state, and national races starting at 7.
Then we'll have full team coverage on WNCT News at 11 o'clock. You can also get up-to-the-minute updates on WNCT.com.